welcome to the Entrepreneur Success Formula podcast, where we'll be getting down to earth with real entrepreneurs who work hard and know that success is more than a mindset, because it takes blood, guts, and a bucket full of luck to survive and thrive in the world of business today, especially today. And in this episode, I'm speaking with the lovely Rachael Naylor, who runs the VoiceOver Network. She is the editor of the Buzz magazine and host of the VoiceOver Hour, and she's an award-winning entrepreneur. So, Rachael, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you, Damien. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you for joining me. And obviously, we are now speaking in unprecedented times with unprecedented events. And however, it's never been more important than ever to understand entrepreneurship and building a business from home online. And what it takes to actually survive and thrive in this industry. So and I now say the industry, which is the online business industry, because essentially this new industry has just been invented overnight, and you might be hearing this in years to come when the world has changed and you think, oh yes, I've heard about that thing called COVID-19 or the coronavirus. What's all that about? And so anyway, let's get on with the questions, the standard questions. So the first one is, Rachael, how did you, or why did you set up the VoiceOver Network, and how did you get your first customer?
Okay, so good question. So I'm an actor and a voice actor, and I've been doing voiceovers for over 18 years now, and it's an industry that I love and I'm very passionate about. And so what happened with me was that as an actor, I was always quite scared of just even the word business. It was quite funny. So I come from a theatrical background, and I saw lots of success in my voiceover career, which was fantastic. But then I started going through feast and famine as a voice actor, and that really irritated me, because one minute I was doing really well, and the next minute it was very quiet. And I realized, and I kind of looked at what I was doing and realized that what I was lacking was business. The business skills and understanding. So that's where I kind of went and decided to learn as much as I could about business. And even that word, it was so funny. It used to scare me. It used to make me feel really like, oh, I'm not a business person. I'm an actor. I want to sing and dance. And so I basically threw myself into learning about business, marketing, and and I just kind of threw myself into that world and realized that it was really fun and really exciting. And that's kind of and then we met and we started working together back in 2013 beginning. It was the end of 2013. We started working together, and so I started learning about business. And then I started a little meetup group, and it was just it started with 3 other voiceover artists, and we went for a drink, and I thought, this is really useful, we should do this more often. And it was really about sharing information and connecting with people. And so I started a free monthly meetup group, which just grew and grew and grew. And it was originally called the West London Voiceover Artists Meetup Group, which is a terrible name. Not catchy at all. And it grew and grew. And then I decided to have it in central London, so people from different parts of London could come, change the name to the VoiceOver Network. And then I wanted to make it a better networking environment. And at that point, it was happening every month, but there were a handful of people who were coming and they were just getting drunk, which was fine. But I wanted to make it more of a useful networking environment, because I had realized as a voice actor that my best clients were coming from networking. So I wanted to not only create more networking opportunities for myself, but for other people. And so I realized that we needed to get agents and producers and casting directors in the room. And in order to do that, because they're quite tricky to kind of get them in the room with voice actors, it was, well, let's give them free stuff. So in order to give them free stuff, I had to charge people. So I had my first paid event it was the summer of 2014, and I remember I was terrified, and Damien, you really helped me with kind of getting it all going, and you were my cheerleader on the side going, do it. And I charged people, which was terrifying for me to charge my peers, and kind of put myself in that position. And it was a huge success, and people had a great time. You had lots of agents and producers and casting directors, and from there I continued to charge. And it was the end of 2014 when I looked at the voiceover industry and I looked at what I created, and I thought I could carry on kind of bumbling along and making a better cash, or I could try and make a real difference. And so with your help, and with the help of the Entrepreneur Circle, I launched the VoiceOver Network in 2015 as a membership organization. And my big thing was it was about helping, supporting, and strengthening the voiceover industry. And that's something that drives everything we do. And by having a membership organization, it meant that we would be able to do lots more events, create the magazine, the Buzz magazine, do online stuff, webinars. And it's about kind of bringing people together. So yes, I think I've answered your question somewhere along there. But yeah, I mean, our first paid customer, I guess, for the VoiceOver Network, was back in 2014, and that was our first event. And from there, now we have hundreds of members based all around the world, which is exciting.
And what was the idea behind the Buzz magazine?
So the Buzz magazine, now that came before the VoiceOver Network, interestingly. So I started finding out about PR and PRing myself as a voiceover artist. And I think I came across some online training thing that I started following. And it was all about getting yourself in local newspapers and in magazines and on the radio. And I got myself in the local paper, and I was like, oh, this is fun. Okay. And then I managed to get myself in a couple of magazines, and I got myself into Stylist magazine in London. And they did an interview with me, and that's got like 3 million people who read that. And so that really got me very excited. I thought, okay, I want more. And so I was looking for a magazine for the voiceover industry. I can't remember, this is years ago. And there wasn't one. And I thought, that's crazy. We should have a magazine. Like, every industry has a magazine. Now, the voiceover industry is quite interesting because it sort of used to be the little brother to the acting industry. It was kind of the resting actor's job, and actors would look down on it. Whereas the people who were actually doing it were laughing behind closed doors because they were earning lots of money, and there were very few of them, and they were kind of cleaning up in the voiceover world. And so I've lost my train of thought. Completely. The Buzz, there we go. And so there wasn't a magazine, there wasn't anything. So I originally thought about starting a magazine before the VoiceOver Network, and I remember thinking, right, I'll start a magazine. And I organized coffee with a friend of mine who worked in PR at the time, and I was like, brilliant, okay, I've got this great idea. And I sat down with her, I was like, I'm going to start a magazine, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And she slowly kind of burst my bubble bit by bit. And by the end, and she was telling me how much hard work it would be, and it would take over my life, and it would be exhausting, and it would be difficult, and and she kind of, like, her negativity kind of just like weighed on my shoulders, and she burst my bubble completely. So I came away from that meeting thinking, oh, that's it. Like, no, definitely not. I'll just carry on doing what I'm doing. And so when I came up with the concept of the VoiceOver Network as a membership organization, I was like, oh, we could do a magazine. And at the time, like, it was just me and a part-time assistant. And I think back to those times, like, I had no idea what I was doing, what I was getting myself into. I don't come from publishing, I don't come from journalism, but I just thought, how hard can it be? Like, I'll ask a couple of people to write some articles, and then I'll send it to a designer, and they'll make it look pretty, and then get it printed. I mean, how hard can that be? 5 years later, and wow. So it's a quarterly magazine, and it was in print for 5 years, and we've now just taken it online. It's a lot of work to do a magazine, but I'm so passionate about sharing information, and I really believe in magazines, and I believe in people having something that they can use to help inspire them, and it's all about sharing information and inspiring people and strengthening the industry. So so that's where it all kind of came from. It was, and I remember our first edition was, I don't know, it was like 6 pages or something. It was more like a newsletter, but now it is a full-on magazine, and we have sponsors and ads and which is exciting. But it takes a lot of work doing a magazine, but it's I believe in it.
As someone who's come from a publishing and magazine background,
yes.
I can tell you that the quality of the Buzz has gone exponentially through the roof, and it is a fantastic publication. Okay, question number 2. What has been the biggest mental challenge you've had to overcome as an entrepreneur?
Ooh, gosh, there are lots. There are lots of mental challenges that I've had to overcome. I think probably one of the biggest, which was one of the early days of setting up the voiceover net, launching the voiceover network as a membership organization, was I had a really nasty bout, and I've had a couple of nasty bouts of trolling, online trolling. And I didn't expect it. And when I started the voiceover network, I was like, oh, I'm just going to do this great thing and help loads of people in the industry, and like it's going to be wonderful, and I'm just doing a good thing. But yes, okay, I'm going to make some money out of it, but main thing is to do a good deed. And I launched it and ruffled quite a lot of feathers in the voiceover industry. People who didn't want the voiceover industry to be talked about publicly, and they wanted to kind of keep it to themselves, like this is our world, even though and I did an interview in The Independent, because I had a PR agency working for me at the time, and it was all very exciting, and I did this interview and it was a great interview, but they took something that I said out of context, and anyway, people on social media got very excited, and I had a really nasty bout of being sort of attacked publicly by a small group of people in the industry, and that was really tough for me, because I hadn't signed up for that, and I didn't, it was uncalled for, and it was vicious, and I remember coming in, and I was doing a course actually with you, Damien, around that time, and I remember coming and telling you about it, and I was really upset about it, and I didn't know what to do and how to stop it, and I remember you saying it's brilliant, and I was like, what? Well, it's actually fantastic, because as soon as you get the haters, it means you're doing something right. And I was like, what? But I don't want to be hated. I'm an actor. I just want to be liked. and I got advice from different people, and the main advice was not to respond and not to engage, and that was really, really tough for me. I had to sit on my hands knowing that they knew, and some of these people had been my friends, and they've decided to try and kind of pull me down. And so understanding that it wasn't about me was huge, and it was about their insecurities and them trying to put their insecurities onto me. And because I put my head above the parapet, which as Brits is always, we're not as used to doing that in America. I have a lot of American friends. I do a lot of stuff in America. They're much more like, yeah, let's all just, you have to put your head above the sort of the parapet. That's how they all kind of work, whereas in the UK we don't. And so once you do that, everyone's like, right, okay, oh, she's standing up, right, let's have a pop at her. And so that was really big for me, kind of getting my head, like accepting that people aren't going to like me, and that's okay, was huge. And once I did that, and I said, you know what, I could stop now, I could walk away, and I could just pull the plug and just go, I'm out. And I definitely thought about that. I mean, there were times when I thought about that, but I didn't, and I stuck with it, and I kept going, and I believe in what I'm doing, and it made me have to really dig deep. And it is true, when you can't be all things to everybody, so understanding that actually you're going to upset people if you're going to do something amazing. Not everyone's going to like you, and even the nicest people in the world have haters. Anybody who's on the news, anybody who's a sports person, anybody who has their name in the public has people who don't like them, not because of what they've done and not because of them, it's because of people. It's that person who's being the hater, it's those trolls, that's their issue, and not taking that on board is tough. And there are times, I think, that any entrepreneur, anyone who's out there in the public eye, has moments, but you have to understand that you have to kind of try and block them out and keep going. And I think that was something that I had to, I think that was a big learning curve for me.
People are going to love you, people are going to hate you, and it has absolutely nothing to do with you.
Absolutely.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you had to start over again from scratch, what's the one thing that you would do differently?
Ooh, gosh. If I was going to start over from scratch, what is the one thing I'd do differently? What would I do differently? I think I would get more staff earlier. I think I spent, so what happened with me is I, you know, like a lot of entrepreneurs, I wouldn't say I'm a control freak, but I was micromanaging the business. I was doing everything. And because, you know, the voiceover network was my baby, and I definitely, so the thing about the voiceover network, which is quite funny. So I was 9 weeks pregnant when I launched it. So the first year of the voiceover network, I
No
was
excuses, anyone.
getting bigger and bigger. Yeah. So then I had my baby, and it was a bonkers year, and it was really full on. And little Scarlett, you know, she came to her first event when she was 5 weeks old, and I got up on stage and did a talk with her on my chest. It was completely crazy. But I think I felt like the voiceover network, and I've always felt like it, you know, my company, it's my baby. And so, you know, I was very protective of it. And I had a couple of, you know, experiences of being burnt, but I had a staff member who burnt my fingers, and that kind of, then I went, whoa, right, no more, you know, no staff. I'll have one assistant and that's it. And for years, and what happened was that I ended up burning out. And I ended up getting, you know, very ill. So I have MS now, and I was diagnosed with that in 2018 because I was just, my body couldn't take it anymore. I'm not that, you know, there are reasons why people get certain things, but I ran myself into the ground because I wouldn't let anybody else help me. And I think that's a really important lesson for all of you guys watching this, is to get staff. And I now have 9 staff members. And there are ways that you can have staff without it costing you, you know, £20,000 a year. You know, there's part-time staff, there's VAs, and there's also amazing staff in other countries who, you know, so I have staff in the Philippines who are amazing and wonderful, and that's, yeah. So I think getting staff, more staff in earlier is the key, and asking for help. That's always something that I've always struggled to do, and now I have to ask for help, and especially with my health issues, which you know, I've got them under control, touch wood. But yeah, it's asking for help and accepting help, and yes, and not micromanaging. You can't do everything.
Absolutely. So this is kind of leads on to the next question, but it is slightly different, and it's specifically aimed at people that are probably having to create a different income stream now.
Okay.
So this used to be aimed at, you know, young entrepreneurs. What's the one piece of advice you would give to a young entrepreneur starting out today? And it could be, you know, it can often be sometimes the same bit of advice. You just get staff early. But obviously, the reason I actually said initially young entrepreneurs is they probably don't have any income yet. So let's say that they're thinking about a business, but now we can pretty much open this up to the general population. Anyone who's now thinking, oh dear, you know, my job is now gone.
Yep.
Right, I've now got to create an online business. So what's the one piece of advice you would give to anyone who's basically thinking about starting a business today?
Ooh, okay. My advice for you would be, think about what you love. What is it that you absolutely love to do and to talk about? Okay, not what you're good at, or what your parents told you were good at, or what, you know, what you've been expected to do and you've ended up going down that road. What is it? If I said to you, what's the one thing that you absolutely love to talk about? That is what you should do a business on. Because if you can find something that you love and you can share that with other people, and you can share that passion, whether it is cooking, whether it's, you know, cycling, whether it's, I mean, anything, whether it is, you know, puzzles or cats or surfing, or, you know, however obscure it is, there are other people out there who love it too. And what you can do is share your knowledge and share your passion. And I think that that's the most important thing, is going down the route of creating a business around what you love. Because then when you get up in the morning, you don't feel like you're like, oh, I have to work now. Like, this is exciting. And if you can be doing online webinars and online courses about something that you love and you want to share with other people, that is magic, and it's not a hard thing to do. You know, when I sit down and work on things for the voiceover network, I've created the business around things that I love. So I love the voiceover industry, I love acting, I love being creative, I love seeing people and meeting people. I love events and networking, so we do events. I love learning, so we do training. I love, you know, reading and magazines, so I have a magazine. It's all kind of been built around stuff that I love and I'm passionate about. So when I do an event, it's not like, oh no, I've got an event. I'm excited because I create the events around what I want, what I'd like to go to, and I think recognizing that part of you, that there are other people that have that interest, and if you can tap into that part of you and that passion that you have, you can then create yourself to be a leader in that world. So whatever it is, and whether it is, you know, computers or, I mean, anything, you can create an online business. And
I think the greatest prime example of that is Sam, my girlfriend Donna. She's got a son who's 17 years old, and he's constantly listening to this like commentary, and I'd be like, Sam, what are you listening to? And he's like, oh, this is a gamer and I'm watching him play his game. I'm thinking, oh my god. And then I looked into it, and this guy is like earning millions by basically live streaming the games that he's playing. I'm thinking, hold on a minute.
Yes, I know.
As an example. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing when you know, when people, you know, I think back to my school days, and if somebody had said to me, you know, I always used to get in trouble for talking at school. So I was always in trouble, and every single report I ever had said, Rachel talks too much, Rachel distracts other members of the class, Rachel daydreams, Rachel. And actually, I now earn money from talking, and I'm, you know, so that's an incredible thing to be able to do, is that you turn what you're passionate about. And I often think it comes as well from things that we also struggled with, I think, as children. I think so often when you meet somebody who's got a business or is in a job that they're passionate about, I think a lot of the time you can trace it back to something that happened as a child that they struggled with. So for me, like, you know, I used to get into trouble for talking, and I also used to hate sight reading. Absolutely put the fear of God into me, and now that's my job. It's strange. It's, you know, but I think maybe it's to do with the human spirit and overcoming kind of struggles, because that's important. Your story, like, everybody has a powerful story. And everybody also has information in their head that other people would pay for. So I think that's the other thing that's important for you all to know watching this, that you have experiences, life experiences. Doesn't matter how old you are, you have knowledge that other people would pay to get access to.
I love that. Okay, so and this is slightly different again, what is the best piece of advice given to you by someone else? And you can name them or not name them, it's up to you.
Okay, first thing that comes to mind was a big turning point in my life. In 2013, I went to a business conference, and I was terrified because it wasn't my thing. And Nigel Botterill bounded out onto stage, and he's an entrepreneur. Those of you that know, he runs the Entrepreneur Circle. He bounded out onto stage with enthusiasm, energy, and a brightly coloured shirt, and he was funny and very generous with his information, and it blew me away. And he said something, and this is something I share often, and I say in every talk I ever give: it's all your fault. It's all your fault. So if business is going well, fantastic, well done, it's all your fault. But if business isn't going well, unfortunately, it is all your fault. Now, saying that to actors, and I often go and talk to groups of actors, and that, you know, and it's funny because actors are, you know, you can feel the room go, what? But it's my agent's fault. It's the casting director's fault. The wind wasn't right. I didn't look, you know, it's the other actor's fault, all that. But it is incredibly empowering. If you really take it's all your fault, knowing that you are in control of your destiny, that is the most powerful thing.
I just want to add an addendum to that, because I spoke to you before we started the broadcast about
Mm.
a guy that I hold in very high esteem at the moment. It's a guy called Michael Wader. I'm actually going to ask him if he'll come on the show. He's
Yeah.
72 years old. He loves motivational speaking. It's what he's done all his life. He speaks about
Yeah.
leadership. You can go and check him out on YouTube. He's brilliant. His whole entire business got wiped out with the coronavirus. Now, it would be very easy for him to say, well, I don't have a business anymore because of the coronavirus. He got all of his gigs cancelled in Asia. He's living in Russia right now. Guess what he did? He learned how to go online. He's basically turned into a virtual speaker. And actually today he's got a webinar, a live webinar for CEOs and leaders. He's got 279 people booked in to come on that webinar. So that's an example of someone who has literally taken it and said, you know what, it is my fault and I'm going to do something about it. So I love that bit of advice, and I'm going to get Michael on the show.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, and also just in this current climate with the coronavirus, you know, it is scary, and we're right in this early days. So wherever we are when you guys watch this, at the moment we're in the early days, and it is scary. But I think that the key in business, actually, and in life is to be fluid and adaptable. You know, change happens all the time. We never know what's going to come. And, you know, 2018, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and it completely, you know, knocked me sideways. I didn't see it coming. It wasn't expected. It was terrifying. And I had moments of thinking, right, I'm going to run away. I'm going to go. And I remember talking to you, Damien, saying, right, that's it. I'm going to pack it all in and I'm going to go and live in the country and get chickens, which is a kind of sweet idea for a while. But I had to adapt, and I had to you know, to think on my feet. And yes, I had to take time off a bit and get myself better and work. But, you know, I learned a huge amount, and I ended up getting more staff, and it was a really wonderful thing. But I think being, you know, knowing that nothing's going to stay the same, and things are going to come along, and change is going to happen, and things like the coronavirus, or, you know, you'll get sick, or someone you know will get sick, or something will happen. Then maybe, you know, and I think we've all just got to make sure that we don't, you know, that we're adaptable, and that we just go, okay, this is what I've been dealt. This is where I'm at. How do we deal with it? How do we move forward? There is always a solution to a problem. There's always a solution to a problem. So I think, yeah, being adaptable and knowing that there is always a way forward as well. We can all, you know, we've all got creative minds. We've all, you know, there's so much knowledge in our head that we can tap into. That yeah, it's never over. There are always things that you can do to adapt and move and change. And the coronavirus is forcing, you know, it's forcing millions and millions of people around the world to change, and they are being forced to stay at home and, you know, look at their lives and think, right. And it's amazing, because, you know, you have to, yes, there are probably some people who are sat at home doing nothing, but most people are going, right, okay, let's get the kids going, let's teach the kids, you know, let's do some online stuff, let's, you know, let's do some Zooms, let's
get
learn,
fit, let's do some reading, start a new business.
Start a new business. Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. So.
Okay, so if you were in charge of UK business, what legislation would you introduce right now, bearing in mind the current situation, to help entrepreneurs specifically?
Oh gosh.
I know what I'd do. I mean, we've got tax breaks for people with premises, but that's obviously, you know,
yeah.
not use them.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Because what the government needs to do is encourage people who are at home now, who are being forced not to work, to start businesses and to be creative. And so, yeah, I think there needs to be some incentives, some financial incentives for people, entrepreneurs, self-employed. We need, you know, there needs to be tax breaks and financial help for self-employed. I think they're going to mention that fairly soon. I don't know, legislation.
I mean, personally, I would put a 2-year no tax to be paid for 2 years for any entrepreneurial businesses starting out.
Yeah.
I would point them towards a research and development grant.
Yeah.
And I would encourage them to look into industries that are going to be coming out better as a result of this. So I would have a list of industries. and point them towards that, and maybe even do training grants, get some trainers in to actually show them how to do this stuff. I think there's opportunities all round actually for online training in certain sectors. I mean, no one has put, from what I can see, no one has put anywhere online, and I'm thinking about doing it, but I'll probably be too late by the time I say this, of how to actually set up a Zoom account and use Zoom.
Yeah.
But it just seems so simple. If you're sitting at home and everyone's going, "What Zoom? How do I even get an account?"
I had my mum and dad this morning saying to me, we want to do a group meeting for the local like gardening committee or whatever, and they tried to get on something yesterday and they couldn't get on, and my mum was like, "What do you use?" And I said, "Zoom." And she's like, "Okay, right." I'm like, super simple to use. And then I was like, "Oh well, I could talk you through it." But yeah, to have a simple way, because everybody's doing online now, and even my parents-in-law, who would never do online shopping because they love to go to the shops, and they think Amazon is like the devil because it's closing all the bookshops, that kind of thing. They're now having to do online shopping, and so a whole generation of people who didn't do the online thing. I think that there needs to be some help for them.
Yeah. Okay. So what are your plans for the future? And I'm going to ask you about the book, and I'm going to tell you to actually say the title, because it's the best title of any book I've ever heard. What are your plans for the future, and how do you plan to grow your business?
Oh, my plans for the future are to I want to help more voiceover artists around the world, thousands of them. I want to travel the world as a motivational speaker. That's something I'm very passionate about, and I love traveling. Obviously, at the moment, we're not able to travel, but I do motivational speaking, but I want to do more of that. What am I going to do? Traveling. And
go on, tell us the title of the book.
And a book. I've got 3 books in my head at the moment that I haven't written yet, but I'm working on a book, and it's called "What's Your Fucking Excuse?"
That's now just changed the rating to an 18 of this podcast.
Sorry, whoops.
No, it's all right. Don't worry. I'll bleep out that.
You can bleep that out. So yes, and it's all about, and it came, the title for that came while I was dealing with being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, because that week that I was being diagnosed, and this kind of shows the human spirit, what we were all capable of. I was having some real online trolling, another bout of online trolling, but a really nasty bout of online trolling that came from I'm not even going to go into it. A horrible guy who just started some lies, and so I was dealing with a PR nightmare at the time. I'd actually got the police involved. It got very, very nasty, and that was the same week that I then went into my neurologist's office, not expecting to be diagnosed at all, and I was diagnosed with MS, and my whole world fell apart. I literally felt like this doctor took the essence of me, every part of me, and she threw me in the air, and it was terrifying. And then 2 days later, I had to 3 days. So that was on the Wednesday of that week, and on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was hosting one of my biggest voiceover conferences that I'd ever done. And so I had to drive. I remember driving there and calling you, and I was in floods of tears going, "I can't do this." And you were like, "Come on, pull yourself together." And I went, and I kind of put the MS diagnosis in a box, and carried on that weekend, and acted my socks off, and had to dig really, really deep. And I think, we are all capable of so much more than we realize. And that's really important for you all to know, that you are all capable of so much more than you realize. And it's only when we're pushed, and when we're in those dark places, that you literally either roll over and just crawl under a rock, or you stand up and you say, right, okay, this is what I've got. These are the cards I've been dealt. Let's deal with this, and let's move forward. And it's So the book I came up with the idea of the book because I hear so many people bitching and moaning about, I want to do this, but I can't, but and lots of voice actors, come to me, "Oh, I'm not getting very much work. I just, nobody wants me. I'm not getting very much work." When was the last time you sent out an email? Oh yeah, I haven't haven't done any marketing for a while. And so it's just about, you know, what is your excuse? We all have excuses, and I had plenty of excuses back in 2015. I just found out I was pregnant. You know, I didn't know, you know, a lot of things. I didn't have any money. You know, there was all sorts of reasons why I you know, I wasn't ready. That's the other thing about not feeling like you're ready. You're never ready. But I did it anyway, and I think it's incredibly empowering, and you just got to start whatever it is you think you're thinking about, you know, start it. Just get out there and do it, and if it doesn't work, then do something else. The only way we learn is by making mistakes. You can't learn about business until you start a business. I really believe that. And I didn't go to business school, and I remember initially thinking, oh, I didn't go to business school. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And, you know, we all have imposter syndrome. I get it all the time, right? But I would never have learned what I've learned in business school. You can't learn, you know, being up against it. There is no way to learn how to deal with being trolled and finding out you have, you know, an incurable disease, and then running an event where you've got, you know, 100 people looking to you for advice. You can't learn that. That's the only way is by doing it. So my advice to all of you is just to get out there and start something. Just start something.
Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah. And whatever your excuse is, well, it's no good. You just got to, you know.
It's not big enough. Yeah.
It's
do
not
it
big
anyway.
enough. Yeah.
Okay. Last question. What's your favorite business book and why?
Ooh, my favorite business book. The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. That is my favorite book. I think I listened to the audiobook of that at a time that was very poignant for me, and I need to listen to it again. Actually, I love that book. It's a fantastic book, and it's all about kind of breaking the glass ceiling above you, and just not kind of, because I think people stay small often so as not to upset the people around them, and it's a difficult one to break, because you know, we have friends and family, and by standing up and doing something different rocks their world, and it does. And I've seen it, and I lost friends. I've lost friends over the years because of, you know, the companies that I've set up, because they couldn't handle it, because by me doing what I was doing, it was shaking the foundations of what they thought was possible. So I think it's a fantastic book. I would recommend everybody. And there's a whole section on time management as well, which is very empowering, and how, you know, we spend a lot of time saying, I don't have enough time, and oh, if I had more time, and that makes you a victim. That creates being a victim of time. And actually, when he has this whole section about you are in control of time, and that's like, what? Oh, and then when you really get into it, you're like, okay, because that just changes everything, because you are in control of time. You're in control of choices, and the choices you make every day, with what you do with your time, and that is empowering. So that's my recommendation.
I love that, and I love that book as well. So that's absolutely awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel, for taking part in today's show. This is like really kickstarting this again, because we are going to be doing this every week from now on. So thank you so much for taking part and delving into the real lives of real entrepreneurs. And thank you also for everyone who's listening right now. Can I ask that you share this podcast with anyone who you think might benefit from that? So that's probably most of the world right now. Anyone who works hard just like us, and also like us on iTunes and YouTube, because this one's going to go out on YouTube as well, and hit the subscribe button. And if you would like to take part in this show, simply drop me an email at damien@rethinkingbusiness.biz, and we can have a chat. And every guest on the show receives a complimentary copy of my online course by the same name, The Entrepreneur Success Formula, worth a whopping $200. So here's to your own success. Rachel, here's to your future success. And thank you so much for taking part today. Goodbye, everybody, and stay safe and stay well.
Thank you, everybody.